One of the great features of the new SAGE Formative and SAGE assessment system in a whole is that we no longer need to manually manage students. As long as students are either entered in PowerSchool or Aspire SIS, those students will be synced with SAGE and the assessment system and with Utah Compose as well within about 3 days at the most. So when students come or go, they are automatically enrolled or removed from your classes. The way you check to make sure that you have classes is here in the Classes and Students section. And so whatever classes you have in PowerSchool or in Aspire will be synced here as rosters. There are some certain special circumstances, like a special ed teacher or in elementary where one teacher takes the entire grade level to teach them science or whatever subject. They may not have those students in a roster in SAGE. So how do you get around that problem? This is something that an administrator can handle by building a custom roster in the Tide application of SAGE. So if you're in this situation, if you come to Classes and Students and there are no green bars here with no student lists and their SSID numbers, let your administrator know that you need them to build you a roster and to follow along with this video. So here's what your administrator needs to do. From the SAGE portal, they'll probably go to the Teachers tab here, or Test Administrators or Assessment Directors. That all kind of works the same way, just so they can get this to this Tide link. Tide is the user manager tool in the SAGE system. And so your administrator logs into Tide. I've already logged into the system, so it won't ask me to log in again. But now in Tide, they can view the students that are in their school or in their LEA district, but they can also develop and use rosters for use in SAGE Formative. And so when an administrator comes here to the roster section, that'll already be picked for them, the state and the district, and then their school. If they're an administrator of multiple schools, they'll just need to pick the school that they're an administrator for. And then here under roster, you've only got one option, add a new roster. You can show system-defined rosters if you want to view those or customize those further into smaller groups. But basically, what we need to do, we have two options here to create a new roster. Click New Roster and choose Next. So you have two ways to go about it. If you have a list and have the time to build a specific roster with specific students from specific grades for a teacher, you can do that. You can come in here and give the roster a name, so I'll call this Resource Teacher. I'll put her name there, and then here in the teacher name, you'll have access to all of the teachers in your school, and this will allow you to assign that roster, this new roster, to that teacher. So we have two options. You can either build the specific roster, or you can give that teacher access to the grade or grades of the entire grade level that they need to access, and then that teacher can build a custom roster from within SAGE Formative. And I'll show you how to do that after we show you how to build these rosters to begin with. You must have access to students in a roster in SAGE Formative in order to create smaller custom roster groups. And so you can create the specific roster yourself, or you can just give them access to all the students in the grade level and let the teacher build their own custom roster. So here's how you do it. You choose the grade or grade levels of the students that you want to give that teacher access to. I'm logged in as a specific teacher trainer, so I don't have a ton of students. But let's say your resource teacher works with grades 2 through 4 and you want them to be able to have access to it. You would select those grades, and then from the list, you could either do Command A to select all those students. You can Command click to choose specific students to move over into this roster, or you can click on the first one, hold down the Shift key, and click on the last one to select a range of students. Regardless, make your selection, move them into this new roster, and then save it. And so now the next time the teacher logs into SAGE Formative, they will have access to that new roster. And you just need to repeat this for every teacher, all your special ed teachers, all of your specialty teachers, whatever else. Just give them access to the students that they need, and then they can manage their own and build their own custom rosters. Pretty straightforward.